Good day, my name is Bluesuit and today I'll be going over my review of the early access D&D tabletop inspired single player turn-based CRPG known as Solasta Crown of the Magister. In Solasta Crown of the Magister, you take control of a party of 4 adventurers as they dungeon dive and slay their way through the shattered world of Solasta. Long ago, the realm was shattered by cataclysm. The old empires were destroyed, evil forces rose to power, cats were chasing dogs, and countless were left dead in its wake. Now it's up to your merry band of heroes to discover the truth and source of said cataclysm and stop it from happening again. The backstory and world building is quite incredible in Solasta Crown of the Magister, and it seems so fleshed out that it was actually hard to believe that this is the first game in the series. The in-game story starts off pretty slow, but it's also top-notch to match, with memorable characters and that feeling that I really didn't know what was going to happen next. This is, however, a very early access title, and much of the story's delivery is still quite rough around the edges. Incomplete animations and unpolished graphics should be expected, and they do make for some pretty awkward interactions sometimes. Additionally, while most of the voice acting is surprisingly good, there are definitely more than a few characters whose voices are just comically bad. The graphics and sound of the rest of the game, on the other hand, is perfect. Every map is super detailed and really feels lived in, and the soundtrack complements these environments well, bringing in a lot of immersion. I do hope that more interactable objects get added in though, such as containers and hazards. Right now there are just enough in the game to add some extra loot and combat options, but not nearly as much as we've come to expect from the genre. Not yet anyway. The absolute best thing about Solasta Crown of the Magister is creating your party, and it completely separates it from other CRPGs. In other titles, you only get the opportunity to create the main character, and then you meet other pre-made ones along your journey. But here, there is no main character. In true D&D fashion, you create a full party from scratch. Their starting gear, how they look, their race, their class, and even their alignment and personality are all up to you. This gave me so much more attachment to my party, and I loved seeing how their personalities, which I created, reacted in different conversations. Whenever it's your turn to speak, instead of choosing from different text options for your character to say, you instead decide which team member gets to speak. If you find some lost valuables, the lowlife on your team might want to take them for himself, while the lawkeeper will insist that they be returned to their rightful owner. Since you're playing as the entire party, you decide on whose personality the group is going to follow. This mechanic is greatly impressive, but it occasionally will render some awkward conversations where a personality will chime in about unrelated topics. The overall downside is that your characters are less involved in the story than if they had been crafted by a developer. Creating these characters feels just like starting a new character sheet in D&D though. You decide their race, class, background, ability scores, proficiencies, and appearance. There's definitely a lot more that I hope gets added in here. The primary races and classes are represented, but it's only a fraction of what exists in the D&D rulebooks, and the devs have said that they won't be adding more. And appearance options are extremely limited right now, with only a few different faces to choose from for each race. The biggest problem though with the character creator right now is that you can make some stupid OP characters. When assigning points to your ability scores, you can make them however high you want with no limit, potentially getting some crazy high level 1 abilities. Obviously most players are just going to roll their stats, but even that doesn't feel right, as you can re-roll as many times as you want until you get the stats that you like. The one major downside in Solasta Crown of the Magister is how linear it is, and this rears its head in a few different ways. For one, the story and progression. Every playthrough will be as different as the parties that are created, but they will all follow the same plot, with very little room for off-the-rails exploration. There really aren't a lot of choices to be made either. The genre has kind of spoiled us lately with the option to attack or pickpocket whoever we want and watch as those actions affect the story, but that's not the case here. Unfortunately, enemies are enemies and friends are friends. Right now you can pick up Solasta Crown of the Magister on Steam for $30 throughout early access and $35 after its release. As I always say, early access games are rarely ever worth their full price, and Solasta is no exception. Roughly a third of the game is currently released, clocking in at around a dozen or so hours. And right now you can also only get to level 6. and I was surprised to learn that the in-game level cap will only be 10 at its full release. It's a faithful recreation of the D&D 5.1 rule set, but quite a few things don't work or still need polish, so I'm valuing Solasta Crown of the Magister at $24, and I'd recommend it to fans of CRPGs like Pathfinder Kingmaker and Baldur's Gate 3 who are looking for another great entry in the genre. I hope you enjoyed this review of Solasta Crown of the Magister. Come see me on Twitch where you can watch our reviews in progress 5 nights a week. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you thought about it. Until next time, peace!